All right, this is a transmission out of all you guys' favorite vans, the Chevy Express van. This is a 4L80E out of a 2006 3500 Express van. And this one lost reverse and it would crunch in forward. So my suspicion is the direct clutch assembly is completely smoked, and possibly the forward planetary. So we'll pull this apart and see what failed. Now on this tag here, you can see it says 2006. That's the year. There's a date code, production and whatnot, the month and whatever. But this is the original one. Supposedly this has a little under 500,000 miles. So we'll see how bad it is. This is your dipstick port. And then your later style 4L80s have the lubrication circuit here and here. The older ones, it was right here. And the newer ones like this one is there and there. This is what they call the rear lube circuit. So there'll be a little tube in the pan that'll kind of go from like here to there. You'll see when I pull off the pan and the valve body. But yeah, first you gotta start with taking these two fittings off. And also the two speed sensors right here, your output speed sensor and your input speed sensor. This is your neutral safety. Basically this is what tells the van what gear it's in, like reverse, neutral, drive, that type of thing. This is your electro connector that just turns all the solenoids on and off, and then you got your two speed sensors. That's all that is. I took the torque converter off, it just slides right off. This is your input shaft. This is actually what spins, and this is stationary, and that locks your turbine. And then in there is your pump, and that's what the two teeth on the torque converter drives, and that gives it hydraulic pressure and lubricates everything. This O-ring is super important right here, because this is your torque converter lockup O-ring. If this bleeds by, your torque converter won't lock up. You'll have problems, because that hydraulic fluid comes through here, which is just transmission fluid, and then that goes to the clutch and the torque converter to lock it up. So basically all the torque converter is just like kind of like a jet engine, a bunch of turbines. It's basically like putting two fans next to each other, and one's plugged in and one's not, and the one that's plugged in spins the other one. That's basically how a torque converter works. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull these off, and we'll dig into this some more. Now you can see this one here, this is short, and this one in here is gonna be long, like this. If you put these backwards, it will, if you put it in there, it will bleed all of the lubrication circuit right back in the pan. This is your two oil cooler lines, so it'll go through these, through the radiator, and come back. So this will read your actual drive shaft speed, and that's your input speed. So that's what these two sensors do. All right, we got all the pan bolts off, so now this will just pop right off. As you can see, that right there is a whole bunch of clutch material. Now this right here, little spring, when you shift the transmission into gear, this is all it is. All right, we got all the bolts out here. This is the pillow switch assembly. Just kind of caught. Now you can kind of see, look at all the buildup in that. These are full of buildup. That's all the clutch material. But this senses basically what gear the transmission's in internally via like the pressures in the valve body. So it tells it what clutches are applied. That's all that does. I got the valve body off here. It just slides right off. And that's it. That's the valve body. There's a bunch of check balls in it. Now if you notice, there's another one of these broken little pieces. I found one when I serviced this transmission while it was still running, and this here, there's a ring inside, kind of right before the center support. There's a clutch pack, and this is one of the retaining that holds that ring in place. Look at how completely bent that is, that's supposed to look like this. This is a good example of how it should look. And just look at how much that one is moved. This is going to cause it to not shift correctly whatsoever. All of these are the same way. And you can kind of check the valve body too, where these balls sit. And these are, yeah, you can kind of see it. Look at the lip on this one right here. Look at how it's kind of like a flare almost compared to like this one. Now this rear bolt that goes in the center support is a 12 point. Now notice how this bolt is hollow down the center, and same as this one for fourth gear. So these are very fragile to take off. So now that we got these bolts out, we can start pulling the internals out. I'll pull all the pump bolts out, and then we'll slide out the whole fourth gear assembly. I took all those pump bolts off and I just lightly tapped on this. Now this lockup O-ring has to come off first. Notice how just that's completely out of round. And then this whole pump assembly here will just slide right off. And this is your whole pump assembly right here. All right, now we're gonna pull out the fourth gear planetary assembly. This just slides straight out. And here it is. Now this is a one-way, so I can spin it this way, but if I spin it the other direction, this whole assembly spins. This one planetary assembly is your overdrive fourth gear. All the rest is just first, second, and third. Next, we're gonna pull out the fourth gear clutch. This just slides straight out. So when this clutch is engaged, this will stop spinning. Now this is your forward clutch assembly in here. This also just slides straight out. Now this is your direct clutch assembly, and this is what I suspect has failed. So let's slide this out and see what it looks like. So this is your intermediate clutch assembly, and you can see the snap ring right here that holds it in place. It's sheared off both these two tabs right there. So we'll pull this band off and we'll see how it looks. All right, got the snap ring out. That's super easy, just pries right out. Now we can slide out our intermediate clutch pack. And that right there is your intermediate clutch pack. This is used in second gear of the transmission. Now here we got the center support. We can kind of pry this ring up here and get it out. Now when you put it into drive and you go into first gear, all you're gonna do is connect this input shaft straight to this shaft. It goes right through this piece, and that will enable this to spin clockwise. Now I'm gonna align the drive shaft right about there facing left, and my thumb's facing left. If I spin this a quarter turn, see how that only spins an eighth a turn. That is your first gear. Now if you want to go into reverse, instead of spinning this one, you spin your direct shaft back here. I'm gonna spin this clockwise, and now the drive shaft is spinning counterclockwise. So that's how your first and your reverse gear work. Now this one was a little bit of a pain to get out. It just holds that center support in. Now with this out, we can take this whole center support and slide it right out. And this whole assembly will slide out, but we have to take off this clip first here, and this just pops right out, just like that. This one was hard, that one was easy. And now we can slide this whole assembly out, if I can get it. Now that band right there is your low reverse band. That'll be in manual 1 in reverse, and that locks up this planetary assembly. Now you can see that tiny little thing sticking down right there, and when I move this, it will remove it from the view there, like that. That's your parking pawl, and whenever you put it into park, that thing sticks down and it locks into like one of these grooves on the gear, and that locks the whole transmission from moving. That's what happens if you slam this into park with still moving. You hear like a grinding sound. That's that tooth right there slipping on the gear in the back. Now you can see this bushing right here, just how worn it is. There's a massive groove right there you can feel. So let's pull this apart and see how it looks. Now this just slides right off the end piece. And this right here is your second gear planetary in reverse. Now this is our failure point right here. It's kind of hard to tell, but these clutches here, they're completely smoked, and there's a massive amount of clearance. See the massive gap right there? That should not be there. And these are like completely black. And this whole assembly is really dark, and you can see where this piece slides into that. This is all completely burnt there too. Now your forward clutch is in here. I'm not going to pull this apart. Now this is your overdrive gear. The way it works is this will become stationary with the case and this will spin faster. But because I have this stationary with my legs, this is going to spin faster. So if I spin the input shaft, notice how that is spinning a lot faster than the input shaft. I'm just spinning it a quarter turn, maybe, and you see how fast it's spinning. That is your fourth gear. It's super simple. This shaft here spins the carrier, and this is connected to the sun gear, and that is your overdrive. All right, so this is the entire transmission put together here, just about. That clutch pack sits right on there, and the fourth gear clutch sits right at the top on that piece. But this is it, that's your whole transmission. All the valve body and everything is just to engage and disengage stuff in this. It's all it is. All right, so here we got first gear. We just spin this input shaft, and that's it, that's first gear. I spin this a quarter turn. The output is not spinning a quarter turn. And then for second gear, this becomes stationary and this is spun. So like this, that's second gear. And then for third gear, you spin both of these two shafts at the same time, like this. And that's just 1 to 1. It's just spinning the exact same speed. So this is first, second, and third. For reverse gear, this is your low reverse band, goes around here, and then you apply your sun gear, which is your direct, and that's reverse. So you see I'm tightening it and spinning backwards. Now for your overdrive, that's pretty simple. All that is this right here. See, it's spinning much faster coming out from the input shaft. That's your fourth gear. Now you may be wondering, well, how does this piece connect to that piece? And that's very straightforward. This here, which goes to your forward, that attaches right here, and your forward clutch is in here. So when this is not in fourth gear, this does not do anything. It just, this whole unit spins as one. And then when you want to go forward, this clutch is applied, and that makes this piece of metal here one with this assembly and allows it to go into that planetary set. And then for direct or reverse or any of those, this piece here, these clutches go to here, and this splined right to this shaft here. Basically this is splined to this whole assembly, and this is splined to this assembly. So that's all there is to these. That's your pump. That just supplies pressure to activate all the clutches. Your torque converter is a whole different thing. It's basically just a big turbine, and there's one clutch which makes it so the engine speed is the same as this input shaft speed here. Short of that, the engine speed will be a little bit faster than the input speed here, but that's all there is to this. It's pretty straightforward. If you guys made it this far, you're pretty dedicated on these transmissions, so thank you for watching.